Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on PIB monthly compilation, and I'll be discussing PIB for the month of November. So all the important news that were reported for the month of November we'll be discussing in detail. And PIB is a source that is going to help you at the stages of preparation. Either it is prelims or mains examination. It contributes a lot. It gives you a lot of more authentic information that is essentially required for the answer writing. It helps you in the essay paper as well as for the interview purposes also. So PIB is the single most authentic sources from the government end. So we'll start the discussion talking about the content of this discussion. This will be followed by General Studies Paper 2, General Studies Paper 3 related news, some news in brief, bilateral agreements and summit, some military exercises and initiative that was a part of the month of November. So before I proceed, those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do press a like button. So first, we'll start the news with that is relevant for the General Studies Paper 2 related. And this is again a section that will contribute a lot more for the prelims examination. So new logo and theme of India's G20 presidency. India has recently assumed the G20 presidency in December 2022 and will continue to hold the presidency till November 2023, right? So the theme of the G20 presidency for India is One Earth, One Family, One Future, or Vasudev Kundabakam. So recently, the Prime Minister has revealed the new logo, new theme, and websites of G20 presidency via video conferencing, and India assumed the G20 presidency on December 1st, 2022. The G20 presidency offer a unique opportunity for India to contribute to the global agenda and pressing issues of international importance. At this juncture, India will definitely have a lot more options to forecast its global power and even to show how India is capable enough to consider and rectify the problem that is already there at the global level. Opportunity for India during the G20 presidency. So the first and foremost is like regulations of crypto across the border payment, and second is public investment in renewable energy infrastructure. So these will be the two most focus area upon this presidency for India. And G20 presidency provide a fantastic opportunity for India to have a global agenda on cultural across multiple streams and engagement, which include protections and retuitions of culture property, advancement of traditional culture practices and sustainable living, promotions of cultural and creative industrial for livelihood generations, and preservations and disseminations of culture by leveraging technologies. So if you're writing in mains paper, make sure you highlight some of the keynotes that is already mentioned as a part of G20 initiative and engagements for the India. This will give an additional edge for your answers. Now, the climate and clean energy issues is again one of the major agenda for India. On climate financing, a clear, strong and positive signal need to be given at G20 to the COP27 recently, which was held in Egypt. This year honoring that very least G20 अगर बात करें पेरिस एग्रीमेंट की, the Paris Climate Change Agreement, the commitment was made in the Glasgow, and the target that was set during this meeting has not yet achieved by many other countries. Now, on clean energy transition, the G20 will need to ensure that IMF monitor the fiscal space impact and decline of the fossil fuel revenues on developing countries' economy making transition and help equip them with the benefits and opportunities that is created to the clean energy economy. Now, the other important news is the draft Digital Data Protection Bill. Recently, the Center has released a revised Personal Data Protection Bill, now called as Digital Personal Data Protection Bill 2022. What are the active digital citizen population? Presently, there are over 76 crore digital citizens, and over next year, it is expected that this will touch 120 crore, that is 1.2 billion. And India is the largest connected democracy in the world and is among the highest consumer and producers of data as per compared to any other countries. Now, some penal provision that is a draft of that is basically the part of this bill. The bill imposes heavy penalties and violations for the legislation, which is decided by the Data Protection Board of India and established by the new law. However, the orders of the board can be challenged in the High Court. So this is again a factual important statement for your prelims examination. Now, there are 7 pillars of this bill. The first is the uses of the personal data by an organization, which must be done in a manner that is lawful, fair, individual, concerned, transparency of an individual. You can also relate this with the recent judgment of the Supreme Court in KS Puttaswamy case, where the Supreme Court has categorically held that the right to privacy is pivotal and it's a part of the fundamental right. The second principle states that the personal data must be used for the purpose which is collected. And third is about the data minimalization. That is essentially the core essence of this bill. The fourth is the emphasis on the data accuracy when it's come to the collection of data. The fifth principle is how the personal data is collected and cannot be stored perpetually by default, and storage should be limited to the fixed duration. It cannot be basically stored for an infinite period of time. There has to be a limitation and there has to be a confined time within which it can be stored. The sixth principle, note that there should be a reasonable safeguard to ensure that no unauthorized collections or processing of personal data is taking place. And finally, as the seventh principle is that a person who decides the purpose and the means for processing the personal data should be accountable such processing. So if any entity, any organization is involved, they have to take the responsibility of this. Now, the consent of individual is again very important. The bill requires the consent of an individual on the basis of processing data, except in certain circumstances which seeks the consent of the data principal that is impracticable, inadvisable due to the pressing concern. And the data principal shall have the right to withdraw her consent at any point of time. So these are some of the liberty that an individual poses with the new bill. Now, exemptions from the bill provision. The bill also gives the power to the government to offer the exemptions from the provision in the interest of the sovereignty, integrity, and to maintain the public order. The government should also exempt certain businesses from adhering to the provisions of the bill, which is based upon the user's volumes of personal data that is processed by the entity. And the revised bill has proposed that Data Protection Board of India with the central government will notify, and the appointment process will be again taken care by the central government itself. Now, the other important news, that is the MARC portal for startup. Recently, the Department of Promotion for Industrial and Internal Trade, that under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, has launched the startup application for registration on mentorship, advisory, assistance, resilience, and growth. This is known as MARC portal. What is this portal all about? The MARC portal, as I've already said, this is mentorship, advisory, assistance, resilience, and growth, is a national mentorship platform by the Startup India. This is again factually important. It's one-stop platform to facilitate the membership and even to facilitate the mentorship of the startup across the diverse sectors, functions, stage, geographicals, and background. The portal, that is a startup, can connect with the academia and industries experts, successful founders, seasonal investors, and other experts across the globe in the field of artificial intelligence, matching to get a personalized guidance on the growth and strategy. Now, what is the objective of this MARC portal? Why it was necessarily required from the government and how it is going to benefit the startup and other people that is associated with it, specifically the stakeholders. So it will provide a focused guidance, hand-holding, and support to startup through the life cycle. It will establish a formalized structure platform that will facilitate the intelligence matching between the mentors and the respective mentees. It will facilitate the efficient and expert mentorship for the startup and build outcome-oriented mechanism that will allow the tracking of the mentor-mentee engagement. So this will be more or less acting as a bridge between the mentors and mentees so that they can build up a good startup without making any losses, and the past experience from the mentor can guide them to build their enterprises. Now, there will be a 3-phase operation that will take place. The first phase will call for mentor onboarding, a successful launched and executed 400 plus expert mentors on board across the sector. Second is startup onboarding. The DPIIT is launching the onboard startup on the MARC portal. And the third phase is that the portal launch and mentorship matching, that is the final launch of the mentor that will be matched by the startup and has initiated the onboard processing startup under the phase 2. So this is how the entire operational of this portal will work out. India's first suicide prevention policies. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has recently announced the National Suicide Prevention Strategy, a first of its kind policy that the country has released. And if you're writing mains, make sure you'll get a question on this. An analytical question can be framed in the mains examination. You have to thoroughly give the data regarding the death that is also reported and why this was unnecessary for India. Now, but the suicide prevention policy will be a time-bound action plan that call for multi-sectoral collaborations to achieve the reductions in the suicide mortality by 10%, that is by 2030. The suicide impact all sections of the society and thus require concentrated and collaborative efforts from individual and the community at the large. So definitely it's not only the government, it is also the part of the stakeholder that too has that will definitely have to call for an impact where an awareness campaign is working towards getting the concerned individual about informations and the basic information that is essentially required. Now, AIM, the strategy broadly seeks to establish an effective surveillance and mechanism suicide within 3 years. It will establish a psychiatric outpatient department. जिस तरह से हॉस्पिटल में OPD होती है, that is outpatient department. There will be a psychic out department. This is known as POD. That will provide suicide prevention services through the district mental hospital program in all districts within 5 years. So this is a program. This is a roadmap that the government has decided. The policy will integrate the mental well-being curriculum in all academic or educational institutions for the next 8 years. It envisages developing guidelines for responsible media reporting on suicides and restricting access to the means of suicide. The stress on developing community resilience and societal support for the suicide prevention. While the strategy in line with the WHO Southeast Asia region strategy for suicide preventions. Now, death due to suicide, this is what I was talking about when you were writing in mains examination, the number has to be there. So in India, more than 1 lakh lives are lost every year due to suicides, and the top killer is between the age group of 15 to 29. In the past 3 years, the suicide rate has increased from 10.2% to 11.3% for the per lakh population. And the most common reason for the suicide include the family problems, illness, which account for 34% and 18% of all suicide-related deaths, specifically in India. Now, some important news that is relevant for the General Studies Paper 3 related news. So among them, the first is 7th India Voter Week. The President of India has inaugurated the 7th edition of India Voter Week. This is at India's Expo Center in Greater Noida in Uttar Pradesh. The theme for this was voter security for sustainable development and equity was a main theme. And even sometimes for many other competitive examinations, they can directly ask you about the theme for the week. Now, about India Voter Week. Every year, India Voter Week is organized to raise the awareness and conserve the water resources as an integrated manner. And India Voter Week platform is used to elicit the ideas and opinions from the global level decision maker, politicians, researcher, and entrepreneurs. Sustainable and equitable management of water की बात की गई है, how it will be, basically the country will be moving ahead ensuring that there's a sustainable use of water. So 5-day long program was set to bring together the expert, planners, stakeholders across the globe. And the focus is to build the dialogue, action plan to address the issues of sustainable water uses and its development. Regulating over extraction of groundwater, tackling water resources in rural area, access to install well, pump, etc. And even aquifers, rainwater harvesting like check dams, field mounts will be the part of it. And some of the other ways that will call for the sustainable management of water. Moreover, new technologies, जैसे बात करें enabling to improve the water accounting and equitable in water management will be some of the important parts when it's come to the equitable management of the water. Moving to the other news, that is 5th meeting of the Governance Council of the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, that is NIIF. Recently, the Union Minister for Finance and Corporate Affairs had chaired the 5th meeting for the Governance Council of the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund. Now, what was all about this meeting? The National Infrastructure and Fund is a fund which manages invest in the infrastructure and related sector in the country. This is about the NIIF. The Governing Council noted that NIIF has developed into an international, credible, and commercial viable investment backed by highly respected and global domestic investors who have invested alongside the Government of India in the NIIF funds. Now, India Japan Fund की अगर बात करें, the NIF first bilateral fund, that is India Japan Fund, its contribution with the central government has been proposed to the MOU, and the National Investment and Infrastructure Fund Limited and the Japan Bank of International Development is a part of it. The MOU was signed in November 2022. The key update regarding the bilateral engagement was NIF was endorsed by the Governing Council of the NIF. Now, what is the roadmap of the government? This will leverage the investment fundamental to expand its operations, and it will also call for opportunity in the national infrastructure pipeline, PM Gati Shakti, and even the national infrastructure corridor, which include the big pool of investable greenfield and brownfield project that will thrive for the commercial viable project and opportunities. The governing council has informed about the investment and performed the NIF operating companies such as port, logistics, renewable energy, digital infrastructure, and other sectors include waste management, water treatment, healthcare, electronic vehicles manufacturing. National Bioenergy Program. Recently, the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has notified the National Bioenergy Program. And what are the sub scheme under the scheme? Basically, there are sub scheme. First is the waste to energy program, another is the biomass program. Talking about waste to energy program, here is to support setting up of large biogas, bio CNG, and power plants that exclude MSW and power projects. And under the biomass program, it called for based cognitions to support the pellets and briquette in use of the power generations and the non-biogas based power generation project. So these are the two important sub schemes that will be the part of National Bioenergy Program, and these two sub schemes will definitely provide to help Government of India to achieve the target of the bioenergy programs. Enhancing the biomass productions to utilize the huge surplus of biomass, cattle dung, and inertial and urban waste with the countries available with. The MNRE has promoting the bioenergy in India since 1980. Other measure extended has been the central financial assistance that provides setting up of bioenergy projects such as biogas, bio-CNG, power from the urban and industrial waste, agriculture waste, residues from the capital loss, interest on loan, and therefore increase the project viability. Now, the news that is India's long-term emission for the development strategy. Recently, India submitted its long-term low emissions development strategy to the United Nations Framework on Convention on Climate Change, also known as UNFCCC, at ongoing 27th Conference of Parties, which is there. The venue was Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. The salient feature of strategy, the focus of the long-term emissions development strategy will be the rational utilization of the national resources with due regard to energy security. The transition from the fossil fuel will be undertaken with the smooth, sustainable and all-inclusive manners. बात करें नेशनल हाइड्रोजन मिशन की जो कि 2021 में लॉन्च की गई थी, उसकी एम है दैट इंडिया इज अ ग्रीन मेकिंग इंडिया अ ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन हब व्हिच आल्सो विल बी अचीव्ड थ्रू ऑल दिस स्ट्रैटेजी. The rapid expansion of the green hydrogen productions will call for increasing the electrolyzer manufacturing in the country, जिसमें 3-fold तक इंक्रीज देखी जा सकती है न्यूक्लियर कैपेसिटी बाय 2032. उसके अलावा माइलस्टोन अचीवमेंट की बात की गई है अलोंगसाइड द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द पावर सेक्टर्स. Now, कुछ 4 important considerations हैं इस अप्रोच में. The first is that India contributing a little to the global warming and historically contributing to the cumulative growth of greenhouse gases emissions being masculine despite having a share of 17% of the world population. तो जितनी contributions इंडिया की होनी चाहिए वो अभी नहीं है. We have to achieve that. India has a significant energy needs for development and most of our energy requirement are coal based. We have to reduce the coal based requirement. India is committed to pursue low carbon strategy for development and actively pursue them as per the national circumstances. And India need to build the climate resilience. Now, what is India's efforts in achieving the net zero emissions? India has categorically said that they will be chasing their target as early as possible, but steadily becoming more ambitious. The 175 gigawatts by 2022 and 450 gigawatts by 2030. And United Nations Summit is now 500 gigawatt by 2030 will definitely be announced at the COP26. These were all the announcements that India has recently made and will try to achieve it earliest. Now, India has also announced that the target of 50% installed power generations capacity from the non-fossil energies by 2030 and raising the existing target for 40%, which has already been mostly achieved. India has announced that the hydrogen energy mission for the green and grey hydrogen will also be the part of the strategy of the government of India. And in an Asian energy market-based scheme, that is the perform, achieve and trade, जिसे PAT भी कहते हैं, UPSC has already asked a question on the PAT. 2016 में UPSC ने prelims examination पे सवाल already पूछे हुए हैं. Do check it out. To avoid 92 million tons of the CO2 carbon emissions equivalent to the first and second cycles. Ballistic Missiles Defense Interceptor. Recently, the DRDO has successfully conducted the maiden flight test for phase 2 of the Ballistic Defense Missile Interceptor AD-1. The flight was conducted from APJ Abdul Kalam Island off coast in Odisha. Now, what is AD-1 Missile Interceptor? This is a range of interceptor missile designed for both low exoatmospheric and endospheric interceptor for a long ballistic missiles in aircraft. It is propelled with 2 stages. ये काफी important है. ये 2 stage की होती है. That is a motor equipped with indigenously advanced developed core system, navigations and guidance algorithm that precisely guide the vehicle to the target. A1 is a unique type of interceptor with an advanced technology that is available for few nations in the world. So India is in that league which has some of the advanced missile interceptors. India's first BDM program की अगर बात करें, BDM stands for Ballistic Missiles Defense Program. It was actually launched post-Kargil War in 1999 when Pakistan was expanding its missile arsenal. This was to keep in mind that if Pakistan is expanding their base, India need to augment it further. The phase 1 of the program has set to be completed towards the end of 2010, consisted of the Advanced Air Defense System, and India Air Defense System was based on Prithvi missile. The second phase, according to the sources, was developed after US की जो थ्रेटर एयर एल्टीट्यूड एरिया डिफेंस सिस्टम है उसे न्यूट्रलाइज करने के लिए भी इंडिया ने काफ़ी चीज़ें डेवलप की हैं. एंड द गोल ऑफ इंडिया बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल प्रोग्राम इज टू प्रोवाइड एयर डिफेंस सीट अगेंस्ट ऑल काइंड ऑफ हॉस्टाइल मिसाइल इंक्लूडिंग द न्यूक्लियर वंस. There are some important news that were important, and that is something brief in nature, and you necessarily need to know about this all news. Now, Deoni Polo Airport, Union Cabinet notes the change for the name of Greenfield Airport at Agoni in Itanagar. This is known as Deoni Polo Airport. The name reflects Arunachal Pradesh's reverence of the sun, that is the moon. So this is how it is related. And this airport will be third operational airport in the state. Network Readiness Index 2022, India has improved its position by 6 slots and now placed at 61st position in the Network Readiness Index report. The latest version of the NIA report is based on the landscape of 131 economies and their performance, and it has different pillars. Basically, it has 4 important pillars. The first is technology, second people, third governance, and fourth is the impact, covering the 58 variables. The report has been prepared by the Portland Institute of Independent Non-Profit Arts and Research and Education, which is based in Washington, D.C., that is District of Columbia. Grievance Redressal Index, the unique identification authority of India, has been placed among the top ministries and departments and autonomous body with resolving the public grievances and has been ranked among the one as per the Department of Administrative Reform and Public Grievances for the month of October. So this is again precisely very important for many other competitive examinations and specifically for UPSC Civil Services examination. The third month of the row, UID has been topped this ranking, and a citizen-centric coordination approach enabling the UID to solve nearly 92% of the CRM grievances in a week. Now, some bilateral agreement and summit that was reported for the month of November. Among them, the first is 9th Asian Defense Minister Meeting Plus. This was a maiden Indian Asian Defense Minister meeting was recently held at Cambodia and marking the 30th anniversary of India-ASEAN relationship. So this timeline is important, relevant for the mains examination although. In designated ASEAN-India Friendship Year, the Defense Minister of India in address has highlighted the historic and robust ties between India, shares with the ASEAN countries, and India has been proactively working towards the Act East policy. Specifically, more or less, India is concerned about the Indo-Pacific region as well. The meeting was co-chaired by the Defense Minister of India, his Deputy Prime Minister, and the Minister of Cambodia. Now, in the same, the initiative for Women Peacekeeping Force operation was also discussed. So, this meeting also called for the purpose where the defense consideration of the UN Peacekeeping Force operation was discussed. The first proposal from the Indian ASEAN Initiative for Women in UN Peacekeeping Forces, which include the conduct of tailor-made courses across the women peacekeeping forces for the ASEAN members at the Center for the United Nations Peacekeeping Force in India. The second is to conduct the tabletop exercises in India for the women officers for the ASEAN, incorporating the facets of UN peacekeeping challenges. India also underlined the importance of women officers and peacekeeping mission to ensure the lasting peace. Now, the other important agreement or meeting that took place, that was India Gulf Cooperation Council Free Trade Agreement negotiation. Recently, India and Gulf Cooperation Council have decided to pursue the resumptions of the FTA negotiation between India and Gulf countries. And this is a looking forward solution oriented deliberated towards the bilateral engagement, significant progress on the matter of the mutual interest, and a gamut of bilateral economic relationship between India and GCC country were discussed. Now, what was the focus of the free trade agreement? Both countries and the nations focused upon creating more jobs, raising the livelihood standard, providing wider social and economic opportunities at the GCC countries. Beside this, the agreement also significantly expand the diversity and the trade basket with the enormous potential of existing account, complementary to business economic ecosystem of India and the GCC countries. Ninth round of India ARCOE KEPA, that is the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. This is between India and Republic of Korea that called for upgradations of the negotiation in the Seoul from November 3rd to 2022. The sideline underlined the need for the negotiation, which is based on win-win approach, looking forward for an outcome orientations. Both sides hope that the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement will be an upgradations for the negotiation that both countries are playing, and it will further aims to strengthen and deepening the economic cooperations between the two countries. Both sides agrees to work closely to address the tariff and non-tariff barriers, deepening the relationship in the service sector. It was agreed that the 10th round of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement is an upgraded negotiation which will be hosted by India in early 2023. Now, some military exercises and initiatives that were part of the news for the month of November, that is relevant for the prelims examination and also for all the aspirants who are appearing for the CAPF examinations. Goa Maritime Symposium. This is recently the fourth edition of the biennial Goa Maritime Symposium was there conducted by Indian Navy at Goa. Representatives from the navies were part of it. This include the countries of Bangladesh, Comoros, Indonesia, Madagascar, Malaysia, Maldives, Mauritius, Myanmar, Seychelles, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Thailand. Beside India attended the symposium that was conducted by the Naval War College in Goa. Now, India has constantly advocated for the concept of collective responsibility for the maritime security in the Indian Ocean region. This is again a topic which is very much relevant for your mains examination. The theme for this was Maritime Security Challenges in Indian Ocean, Converting Common Maritime Priorities to Collaborating Mitigating Frameworks. Exercise Garuda 7, the 7th editions of bilateral exercise between India and Air Force, French Air Force was part of this, and it took place at Air Force Station in Jodhpur. This participation was from the Rafale fighter aircraft A330 and multi-tanker roller transport aircraft, while Sukhoi Mk1 was again the part of it, which also include LCS Tejas and Jaguar aircraft. The Garuda provide two forces an opportunity to interact and share the operational skills and experiences. The exercise also provide a platform for cultural exchange between the Air Force, between the both countries. Exercise Yudh Abhyas. The 18th edition of Indo-US Joint Exercise Yudh Abhyas was conducted in Uttarakhand. This is between India and United States of America. The exercise is conducted annually between India and United States to exchange the practice, tactics, techniques, procedures that armies follow for the nations. The training schedule focuses on employment and integrated battle group under the Chapter 7 of the UN mandate. The exercise involved exchange and practices of the wide spectrum to combat the including skills that include the combat engineering, employment under the US, counter US, techniques, and information operations. The exercise facilitated by both armies shares their wide experiences, skill, enhance their techniques through the information exchange. Now, again, the exercise that is Sea Vigil 2022, the third edition of Sea Vigil exercise was commenced on the eastern seaboard and the part of the National Coastal Defense exercise. The exercise involved the participation of more than 17 government agencies and the 9 coastal state and 4 union territories that are the part of the coastal defense and the coastal security constructions. The exercise was undertaken for India coastline that stand for around 7,560 kilometers. India shared this much coastline, and some of the area was also the part of the exclusive economic zone. The exercise validated the technical surveillance, infrastructure, national command, control, communications, intelligence network. This is better known as NC3I. Now, exercise Harimau Sakti 2022. India and Malaysia jointly have basically taken part in this exercise, which was recently done at Malaysia. The annual training event between India and Malaysia Army, which was started way back in 2012. The exercise will enhance the level of defense cooperations between Indian Army Malaysians, which in turn further bolsters the bilateral relationship between the two nations. The exercise is scheduled to establish a joint command, joint surveillance center, sharing expertise in employment, aerial assets, technological demonstration, casualty management, casualty evaluations and evacuation process, and also the part of planning and logistic that is at the battalion level. So this is how this exercise has already taken place. There are important exercises that took place this month. These all exercises are relevant for the prelims examination, specifically for the CAPF examination. Those of you who are appearing for CAPF examination, this would be much more relevant there as well, right? This was all about for the PIB compilation for the month of November. We have a lot more other initiatives for you to sail through the journey of civil services, daily news and editorial analysis, which I covered from the Hindu and Indian Express. We have IS Gazette magazine, which you can download from our website. FCA, where the fortnight news are covered. PIB compilation, monthly policy review has already been released recently. You can check out for that as well. And Gist of Yojana and Kurukshetra that releases every month. So all this initiative will help you to sail through the journey of civil services. Apart from it, if you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.